Welcome to In the Zone. I'm Craig Zimmerman. Welcome to In the Zone edition number 35 to our special guest, Pat Biebuyck. Welcome, Pat.
Thank you.
We go back, I want to say at least 40 years.
You're probably right.
Right? And I make it very easy because it's like back when I was in high school, I don't remember what year, you started at East China at Marine City High School.
I started in the November of '80.
There you go. At least that long.
Yes.
So tell us about where you were born and raised.
I was born in a small town called Lancaster, Ohio, and I was there till I was 13, and my dad got transferred on the day that President Kennedy was assassinated, and moved to Farmington and graduated from North Farmington in '68. Went to Central to be a nurse, and when my grandfather got sick and I saw the tracheotomy, I said, none of that. So I majored in business education, went into teaching, minor in geography, and I had a job interview with East China schools back in '72 at St. Clair High. Never knew this side of town existed, fell in love with it, and I didn't get the job. I was devastated. So probably about end of August, right before Labor Day, the nun called from Holy Cross, which is now Cardinal Mooney, and said, we got your name from East China School District. I fell in love with the district. I knew exactly, or the area, I should say. So I got the job, and so I was there for 6 years. And my first 2 weeks I was driving back and forth from Farmington to Marine City.
Which is quite a hike back then.
Quite a hike, because 696 wasn't built, neither was M59. And so the custodian at the high school said, well, my mother-in-law has a big house, you could rent a room. So I did, and she introduced me to Jim, my husband. The funeral home was right next door, and so the rest is history. Yep, we got married 14 months later, and had 2 kids, Michael, and he's married to Kim. They have 2 children, Caden and Kendall, and then my daughter Kristen lives in Indianapolis with her husband Brian and Eddie, Patrick, and Grace.
So you're busy with the grandkids.
Busy with the grandkids.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Michael's not Michael's the younger of the 2. Correct?
No, Michael's the oldest. Okay. Yeah, I won't give his age.
Well, then we'll say maturity.
Yeah, Michael's the oldest, and then there's about 2 years between them. We got to
get some, I got to get some barbs into Michael here, because Michael will probably watch us online tomorrow, right?
Who knows? Who knows?
And he'll zing one back at me asking when he's going to be on here.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So give me your mother, father, siblings.
Okay. My mom and dad were both born. My mom was a nurse, a registered nurse, and she worked back in the 50s, which was unheard of.
Right.
Mothers didn't work. And a funny story on that, my dad was a purchasing agent, and the company he worked for frowned upon wives working.
Oh, okay.
And they felt that it showed that the husband, they weren't being paid enough. And the owner of the company ended up going into the hospital and needed private duty nursing. And guess who the private duty nurse was? My mom. Oh, my mom. So yeah, so they both were born and raised around Lancaster area. So yeah, and my mom died in 2011. My dad passed in '98. I have an older brother who now lives with me, who's never married. Okay. So yeah, so he lives with me.
Okay. Busy and active.
Try to be.
So you're still involved with the school district. You taught for a number of years, retired about 10 years ago, but you're still on the school board.
I'm still on the school board. I'm in my 2nd term. Terms are 6 years.
Okay.
And so I'm finishing up the 2nd year of the 2nd 6-year term. So I have 4 more years to go. Okay. So hopefully the building project will be done by the time, my 4 years is up. I'd like to be on the board while that's all being done and completed, hopefully.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, and obviously when I look back at the large bond issue that was passed a couple years ago now, you lose track of it because of COVID.
Yes.
But we're probably pretty lucky that it took place when it did, as far as being approved.
We are.
Because with the tough times we're going through with COVID, you don't know how that would have looked.
No, and that election was like on March 10th. Tuesday, and Friday I always say that's when the world came to an end. That
Right.
was the last day, Friday the 13th. And yeah, I have said that if we hadn't passed that then,
where would we be today?
Right,
with
right.
that whole issue.
A challenge that we're having, but so far it's worked out, is, you know, the price of goods and services went up.
Yep.
And we're finding that out. But we're doing a good job of trying to keep those costs under control, and so far we have.
Sure.
But yeah, we're starting an addition. You're going to see some steel go up at the St. Clair end for the new gym. And the Marine City, the bids are out for that. We're going to approve that next month, hopefully.
So what school will have the new gym?
The St. Clair, that'll be
High school, middle school?
well, it'll be for the middle school part, because the you know, high school is not going to be, I shouldn't say high school, it's going to be middle school, high school, as you said, 6 through 12. And so we're trying to keep the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders
separated,
confined as much as we can.
Sure.
So we're going to put a gym and some classrooms and so on down there. So yeah,
And
so it's exciting.
The Marine City side?
Marine City side is, well, the tennis courts are done down there, because I've had people say, well, you know, what's going on? So the tennis courts are finished. The early childhood center is going to be ready when school starts, and there's an open house. We want to have an open house afterwards. We don't have a date yet, because we want to make sure that everything's in place and it looks good. And then the innovation center that's down there will probably be done probably in the next 3 or 4 months. Again, depends on trades, you know, and all of that.
Which
so
that whole early child center and the
innovation center
is going to be basically right in front of the PAC center.
Right,
in front
right.
of
And they're all going to be the PAC. You'll be able to access the PAC from the innovation center and the old, well, I call it the old but central office.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Or the old East, what was
East China Elementary School. Back in the day, back in the day.
Now, you know what's interesting? I've always said, specifically, I'll say as an example, Marine City Middle School doesn't seem that old. I'm just prefacing this. It doesn't seem that old. I was the first class in that school.
Okay.
So you go, it doesn't seem that old, but then you go back and you go, whoa.
I think that was built in 1975.
Right.
Yes, because I remember when that was built. I was still working at Holy Cross at the time, but I remember when the old high school was over on Main Street.
Right.
And I remember when that was being demoed, and of course that high school, I think, was open in '62.
Right. And the thing that I always say to people that, you know, you'll get some of the naysayers will say, well, that building's not that old, or it's in good shape, or this. And I say, what structure do you know of? School, house, condos, apartments, business, whatever, could be 50, 60 years old without a lot of TLC.
Exactly,
and upgrades.
And that's what it takes.
Yeah.
It's a lot of TLC, and of course, you know, infrastructure has changed over the years, because when you were in high school, internet was no computers. Right. It was typewriters, because I taught that. And so the infrastructure itself, things that people don't see, you know, and they're very costly. And, you know, just you've got to maintain that all the time.
And just the fact that every 4 or 5 years you just have to automatically upgrade.
You have to.
Technology is
Think
crazy.
about your home technology.
Right.
How often do you change your phones?
Right.
You know, how often do you change your computer? So, yeah, there's a lot of things go on behind the scenes that I don't think people necessarily see, but I can honestly say that we have been really good stewards of the money and of the millage. We have really worked hard, and what we say we're going to do, so far we've been able to do.
Get it done.
Yes, yeah.
Yep. So it's good to see it. It's good to see this technology getting better and growing with it, because I look at it and I say, you cannot learn the same way today that you did in 1960 or 1980.
No way.
You just can't.
No.
People don't.
Yep.
You've got an iPhone, you've got a iPad. You don't. Now, there are some people that still read a newspaper, and I'm not complaining that, but if you look at the vast majority, they're reading their news on a computer. So everything changes.
I'm one of those.
Yeah.
I gave up the print version and I read it online now.
Yeah.
You know.
So it's going that way. You're either going to adapt and change and grow, or you're going to go away.
Right, exactly. And I mean, I know I retired 10 years ago, and it was just getting to the point where the phones were becoming an issue.
Yep.
You know, they weren't allowed in the classroom. And of course now they're part of learning, but we also do have, you know, computers for the kids. But yeah, things have changed.
Yeah.
Things have definitely changed. So, yeah.
So would you point to any specific time that you decided you want to be a teacher? As opposed to going to the nursing, you mentioned you didn't want to be a nurse because of what you saw.
Yeah, right. Well, I liked my business classes in high school. I had really good business teachers in high school, and I really just liked that. And Central had a really good, strong business program.
Sure.
So I wanted to do that, and I have, well, Tom Shorkey was principal when he hired me in the public school. Tom was principal. Bill Daniels was personnel director, and Ed Trudell was like curriculum director.
Yeah.
And it started out as a part-time job, which was perfect because I had two young ones at home. But yeah, I loved my career, and I really felt that I was an advocate for kids. I liked kids. I got involved with everything, and I think that's part of the key. If kids see that you take an interest and care, and you know how many years I did football tickets. I mean, you were one of the many voices there, but I loved all that stuff.
Yeah, interaction with people.
Right, right, and I'm a people person, so I East China was really good for me, or good to me, I should say, and that was one of the main reasons I ran for school board, is I felt that I had something I could give back.
Sure.
And I wanted to make sure that we continued on the right path, you know, and I make the best decisions I can, you know, and I try to do it for all of our kids, you know, not just a group over here or a group over there. So, yeah.
So the grandkids, what are they doing? They're playing baseball and soccer? And
yeah, Kendall plays lacrosse.
Okay.
And Caden has been deeply involved in baseball, and he travels. My oldest, Chrissy, Eddie, who's 12, who's in 7th grade, he's a really strong wrestler, but he loves football, but he's only 75 pounds.
Right.
So on Sunday, they had 3 scrimmages. 3rd scrimmage, 1 minute left to go. He comes out of the game, and he's on the ground and in pain. He broke his collarbone. Oh. That was on Sunday. 1 minute left to go in the game. So luckily he doesn't have to have surgery. They were able to get into a pediatric orthopedic doctor yesterday, sling for 2 weeks. So, but he'll be able to get his wrestling in. And then he does some taekwondo. And then the middle one, his brother, Patrick, who's 9, he's working on his black belt taekwondo at 9 years old. And Patrick plays soccer, and he is also a wrestler. And then we have the little sister, Grace, who will be 5, who is taekwondo, because she was drug all around to all those.
Why not, right?
Yeah, and then she told Grandma, she says, I'm going to be a wrestler. I said, no, you're not. You're not going to be a wrestler. You can do the taekwondo. So, yeah, that's kind of a running joke. I
listened to a podcast the other day that talked about that whole subject about taekwondo and that type of, you know, exercise or sport. And they said their view on it was, it's a sport that you can do the rest of your life. And I never thought about it that way, but it makes sense when you consider, you know, self betterment. Right,
right. I mean, it's
self-defense. You know,
it's like golf.
Sure.
You know, it's not necessarily a team sport.
Right.
I mean, unless you're on the golf team per se. You know, but you go out there, it's only you. You know, and the same thing with the taekwondo, really. You know, so yeah.
So now you also work a part-time job.
Well, I have about 3 part-time jobs.
Give us a couple of them.
Well, I stand door at Randy Young's.
Yep.
And I work out at Van den Bosch Greenhouse.
Yep.
That's like February to June. And then I work at Marine City Marketplace for 2 out of the 3 bosses are former students of mine.
Right.
Yes, yes. And then Randy actually worked for us.
Well, I was going to go down that rabbit hole, if you will. It's like Randy used to work for Jim in high school in Merlin.
Randy started out washing cars, standing door, setting up chairs.
Right.
all that. And we used to, I don't think Randy was working for us when we had the ambulance business, but we didn't have EMS
Sure.
back in the day. The ambulance was run by the funeral homes.
Yep.
And so, so I've seen Randy grow up.
Yes, literally.
You know, it's been good.
And he's got quite the enterprise going.
And he does.
You know, I talked to Scott last week, and the boys are involved, and so it's a good growing business.
They're good. They're good. Yeah.
I think we covered just about everything else on the list. I didn't, get into too many things that we didn't have lack of answers for, so that's good.
Right.
And as I mentioned when I talked about doing the discussion, as I call it, Paul can edit anything out that we don't answer correctly as well.
Okay.
So
all right.
Thanks for coming by today.
Thanks, Craig.
If anybody knows, if anybody knows of anybody that they want to recommend, my number's on the screen, 586-707-5811, and we always thank Miss Biebuyck for coming in.
Don't call me Mrs. Biebuyck.
I revert back to my 1980s.
I know. I can't.
So until next time, we'll see you on Channel 6, CTV6.